Hey-o, all right. Welcome to the QB show. Fired up for this one. Let me know that the audio's working. Check in with me. Give me a thumbs up. Like, emoji me, surprise me with an emoji. And we'll get this thing rolling. I'm fired up to get into it. Got a bunch of good stuff to get to tonight. Also excited to get into some just Q&A. Make sure to get your stuff in. Appreciate y'all letting me know that it sounds good. It's fun to have this thing kind of mini lockdown every once in a while. I'll have some sort of technical nightmare, but I appreciate it. Oh, the parrot is strong. I haven't seen the parrot. I didn't even know that was a thing. I appreciate y'all checking in. I'm going to try to make this thing go on Monday nights here as long as I possibly can. It works out well for me. And Little League, that's the priority. Now Ty is out in San Diego. I know everybody's not out on the park yet, but it's good times out there. I got 3 little guys. They're all playing different levels of ball. It's long Saturdays, but lots of fun. So where I just came from, fired up to talk a little football. Got all sorts of good stuff going on this week at the on the channel. Wednesday, I'm putting out basically like a little sampler of the Joe Burrow analysis I did for the Patreon community. I'm going to put out maybe a handful of different highlights from that just to give kind of the first initial analysis of Burrow. I don't want to jump the gun yet because I got down the pipeline. I'm fired up about some Tua Burrow comparison videos, but I don't know. I'm not sold that it's as clear cut as everybody thinks it is. And I know that there are injury concerns with Tua, but that's just my initial take. I haven't watched every single snap like all those people would if you were really making the decision. And I know that there are health concerns with Tua, and I know Joe Burrow had the greatest season ever, for a quarterback, or a really great season. But for me, the initially watching like 2 games apiece, because that's all I've watched, it's definitely not as clear cut as I think a lot of people make it out to be. Now, maybe I have no idea what I'm talking about, but that's just my initial impression. So I think Tua can play. I think both of them can play. And I wouldn't be upset if either of them were on my franchise if I was a fan. But it's one of those things where I'm not sure it's as clear cut as as everybody thinks. So tonight, in short, I'm just trying to answer as many questions as I possibly can. Got a handful of things that I really want to talk about, but we can get to them when we get to them. So if you have questions, let me know, lock them in. I'll do my absolute best to get to them, especially to the members. I just want to thank the members. I really appreciate that. You can tell the members because they can use the kind of special emojis. They got the badges. You can see the ones that have been around for a little bit longer. They start getting different colored. Turquoise is the people who have been around the longest at this point. I don't think there's another color available, but like every couple months they change up on the colors. So I appreciate y'all supporting the channel any way you can. If you're not interested in the Patreon stuff because it's a little bit more expensive or a little bit longer, the memberships is a cool way to just kind of jump to the front of the line with any of this stuff. So appreciate it. One of the things that I wanted to talk about that I want to make sure I get to, because it just kind of hit me sideways. I know in these live streams I've been telling people that I haven't watched any XFL, and I really haven't. This weekend I sat down, watched probably half of a quarter, and it was, I don't even know what team it was. No, I do know. It was the LA team, and they were playing the Tampa Bay team. And Josh Johnson was playing quarterback, and I'm a fan of Josh Johnson. He went to the University of San Diego. He's a guy who's kind of clawed his way into having a really long career as a professional quarterback. All things that I really admire in a player. You got to be smart. You got to be resilient. You got to be gritty. You got to be, kind of someone who can endure and be okay with a lot of uncertainty, ambiguity, all those things. And so I just value him from afar. I don't know him that well. I know he's a California kid. Where he went to undergrad is where I went to grad school. So a lot of overlap in that regard. And I just respect him a lot. And I also respect his head coach, the LA, Winston Moss, was a coach of mine in the league in Green Bay, and I'm a big fan of Winston. And then Norm Chow, I don't know at all, the offensive coordinator, but I know him from a distance, bounced around the league, USC, all of those things. And so the thing that I really want to talk about is the idea, not so much the football, because the football is whatever, but the communication that I think that they do such a great job with showing. It's real. It's a little filtered because, it is TV still. They have to beep things out. But there's a lot of realness on the sideline when you hear those open mics, as far as when I'm talking about Josh Johnson and Norm Chow, this idea of he's getting frustrated playing quarterback that the play's not coming in fast enough, or he's getting frustrated that he can hear coaches bickering back and forth. And that's real life. That is football on the sidelines at a high level. Now, it doesn't happen like that every single level, but where there's an open communication, especially in the league or professional football, where you have an open mic to the quarterback, meaning that the quarterback has an external audio that gets the output of someone hitting a button. Same thing in the league. Like you see the play caller hit the button, but it can't go, at least the way that I understand it when I was playing, it can't go from the press box straight to the quarterback. It has to go from someone on the sideline straight to the quarterback. That's one of the reasons why play callers at that level like to be on the sideline. So you can talk directly to the quarterback. So they hit the button and they talk directly to the quarterback. Well, my big pet peeve when I was playing was that it just took forever if the play caller was in the box, because it was like a bad game of telephone. You know, the play caller in the box would say the play, then the quarterback coach or another quarterback on the sideline would say the play, and then inevitably the audio wouldn't work and you'd be in a scramble mode, and it was a disaster. And when I was playing, I was always hypersensitive. I wanted to get the play as fast as I could. If you could give me more information, like, hey, they're in sub, or they're in nickel, they're in dime, they're in whatever their personnel is that we know they're in, and you have tips, that's great. Just add it on after, but tell me the play so I can spit it out in the huddle. And when it doesn't happen, that audio clicks off at like either 18 or 15, whatever it is. And it's a mad scramble if you're out there and it's kind of like, you know, for example, like red right, 24 double, and it's over. And you're like, or like, green right, fox, and you just like, help, give me a chance. And it was always funny. One of my former coaches, who I have a lot of respect for, gave me a couple extra years in the league, and I had a high respect for from a distance, Mike Martz. He actually used to intentionally do that to us in practice. So our play calls were ridiculously wordy at the time, digit offense. And he would kind of turn, like he would be like, all right, let's go scatter to red, right, explode, and like start turning and walking away to be like, so we had to essentially know the game plan well enough to know what the rest of the play call was based on the shift, motion, and protection, and so it was like, let's go trade, let's go zebra, trade to wide right, zip, sorry, scout, and you're like, it'd be like, say again, and it was just always this awkward kind of just get the play in faster, cleaner. You know what it is. You got a sheet. You're not making it up. You're not just like inventing stuff, or most guys aren't inventing stuff, especially at that level. You know exactly where it is. Look on the game plan. What's the down and distance? What hash you on? Boom, hit it up. And so for me now, as a play caller and as someone who thinks of themselves as pretty quarterback centric, I'm always trying to get the play in as fast as possible. That's kind of the gist of it. So if you're a play caller, you're watching this, get the play call in fast. Super sticker, love it. Tebow, straight out of the AZ, appreciate it. Brett Hundley coming back as a backup for Arizona. What do you think? I have zero thoughts on Brett Hundley. I know that if I was a quarterback in the league, I would want to play for Cliff. I'm a big fan of Kingsbury. We were into camp together in New Orleans when he was a pro. Besides for the fact that he threw change-ups, he's a great dude, good dude to go out with, good dude to have in the quarterback room, smart, knowledgeable, did things the right way. Everything I have to say about him is positive. I think it would be a great place to play quarterback. A guy, especially with a guy in front of you that's a young guy, hasn't proven how durable he is over the course of his career yet. You're probably going to get a chance to play at some point. All things that I look for in an opportunity. I think historically, you're probably not going to win the Super Bowl if you're there, but, oftentimes if you're a backup, that's not necessarily your prime goal. Your prime goal is for an opportunity to play. And then within that opportunity to play, you surge, get another opportunity, and take off and become a starter and become a franchise type guy. And so, looking around the league, I think it's a tough division, but that's a great opportunity. You go in there with a young guy, young staff, looking to make a name, running a unique system, adapting to the league. I think it's a great opportunity. And if I was a backup, I would love to be in Arizona playing for Cliff, playing with a young quarterback, got all sorts of opportunities. So I'd be fired up. I haven't watched enough of Hundley, outside of back in college, and I feel like that was been a while. So, whether he's that quality backup or not, I can't necessarily speak to it with any sort of idea. Oh, SD Islander 81, keep it up. I appreciate it. The Islander love out here, appreciate that. That's Coronado living right there. That's a strong GIF or emoji, whatever that is. I like it. Cheers to everybody if you got your Monday beverage going. I don't know if I got sinuses or what. I appreciate the support, SD Islander 81. Is that your number 81, or is that like the year you were born, 81? That's a good. I appreciate the support. Thank you all. SD Islander 81. All right, I got you. Mindset on coaching when you never punt and go for it on 4th down. So for those of you watching that don't know this, because I don't necessarily broadcast it, but I am not afraid to talk about it or ashamed to talk about it by any means. I think it's an advantage. I coach a high school football team in San Diego, Patrick Henry. We do not punt and we do not kick off the ball down the field. We only do onside kicks. So I didn't invent this. I stole it from a guy named, what's his name? Kelly from Arkansas, the Pulaski Academy. I should know his first name. Kevin Kelly. If you don't know it, Google it. You're welcome. You'll dive into like 2 hours of content. He does a good job marketing it, and he's a good spokesman for it. He's got all sorts of numbers to back it up. I didn't have to do a whole deep dive on it. I did a kind of a shallow dive on our little analysis on available data for what I was working with at Patrick Henry. Decided it was a competitive advantage for us to do with it. We don't have a punt team. We don't have a kickoff team besides for an onside kick team. We think it gives us an advantage as far as our mindset, what we're trying to do. We value the ball more than we value field position. So we're always trying to get an extra possession, and that's really the essence of it. And then we become really good at something that then in turn the other team has to practice all the time. Just imagine playing against a team that only onside kicks. How much time during the week are you going to spend on that? You probably don't spend that much time on it normally on your hands team, but if you play against us, you're going to spend a lot of time on it. So we're taking away time preparation from somewhere else. We think it's an advantage for us, and we want the ball as often as possible. So that's kind of the essence of it, Islander. Appreciate it. It's a good question. Doing a deep dive on me if you know that. You cannot find my team play on YouTube. I did one video because our quarterback last year asked me to do a video. I forget what it was. I think it was like mid-December. I put it out, but I don't remember what it was called. I could probably find it for you. If somebody knows it or can link it in here, I'd appreciate it. Maybe I'll link it in the bottom after it's done. But I'm having fun with the high school thing. It is, it's in those grind kind of off-season days right now where we're just trying to get better and build a program. So I'm having fun with it. Oh, man. Well over 100 people. I appreciate it, y'all checking in, seeing what's going on. I really got to get another mic in here and start having guest hosts just so I don't feel like I'm talking to myself on these live streams. But I do appreciate y'all checking in. Let me know if there are what questions you got. Eric, we're never punting, bro, ever. I made the mistake of having a quick punt, and we're talking about high school here. I made the mistake of having a quick punt, and we did it a few times last year, and it was a disaster. So we're never punting. We don't have a punt team. So backed up on the -1, we're going for it. We actually got a couple 4th and 20s last year that just were devastating to the other team. Is Matt Schaub really still playing? That's funny. I didn't know that. Edward Dario Moy. I hope I said that right. How good is Joe Burrow's footwork? You know what? You're going to like my video on Wednesday. Because my thing with Burrow, I don't want to ruin the video, but the guy is really, really good. He's an NFL starting quarterback, no doubt about it. He was all of last year. The guy played at a ridiculous level. My thing about it is I almost think that he can get better because some of the footwork, to me, isn't as clean as most of the guys who play on Sunday. So I'll let the video speak for itself, but to me, I was almost surprised. Now, granted, it was early in the season. I haven't watched a whole lot of late in the season stuff, and I want to get to later in the kind of the evaluation process. But I was a little surprised, and so, I'll let the tape speaks for itself in that regard. Bend it, all you people that are all y'all that are sending in like personal situations, like when we're gonna punt and when we're not gonna punt. We're never gonna punt. The decision has already been made. There is no game time indecision. We're never punting. Nick, what's going on, man? Trubisky, Mitchie. I love that movie. Anybody know what movie Mitchie is from? I think that's what he says. Is that what he says? Mitchie. Yes. I don't know, man. I don't know if there's any hope for Trubisky in Chicago. I hope so for the Bears fans. And I'm a fan of, they Nagy put together a pretty special season 2 years ago with that kind of Reed-ish play calling flair, scheme 'em open type of stuff to take advantage of Trubisky. And I think you can get back to doing things that he does well. What he doesn't do well is necessarily play from the pocket and process information fast enough to play from the pocket to be successful. So are there other ways that you can take advantage of a guy who's crazy athletic and can spin it? Yeah, but it's hard to do it week in and week out over the course of a career scheming people up. That's just like the quickest take I can possibly give you. For what they gave up to get him, I think it'll be hard to ever live up to that. And so, I feel for Ryan a little bit. Pace was in that organization when I was there. He was a young guy. I think he might have picked me up from the airport. That's how young he was in the organization at that time. Oh, man. The free agency thing, it's coming. I'm fired up for quarterback free agency. I really am. I feel like this year is as good a year as I can ever remember as far as quality people being available, and really even like maybe potentially too many people being available. What I mean by that is Brady, Breeze, and then really like a second tier of guys. Like for me, if I'm Teddy Bridgewater, I'm feeling pretty good. Hey, Tony. Appreciate it. Super sticker. Very cool. We'll see what you got. Love the channel, bro. Been boycotting the Cowboys after 2016. I don't even remember. You got to remind me what happened in 2016. But I've been boycotting the Cowboys for a lifetime. You're not missing anything there. Go Eagles, no doubt about it. Big fan of Doug Peterson. I played with Doug at Green Bay. And back when he was besties with Brett Favre, it was a lot of fun. It was a fun quarterback room. Brett Favre, Doug Peterson, Craig Nall was the other quarterback. And so I got traded up there. They were good old boys, man. Talking about dirty South, good old people, hunters, hang out, fish, and they got the California softy kid coming in there. But they were a good group of dudes, and I really appreciate it. I learned a lot of ball from Doug. He's a sharp cat. And if I was an Eagles fan, I'd be fired up that he was my head coach, kind of on the cutting edge of, I think, mixing that kind of college game with taking advantage of what's available in the league and kind of blending it into that kind of hybrid thing that took them, I think, to the bowl to a certain regard. Music second nature. I mean, the Cowboys thing to me, I saw it popped up on my phone before I hopped up here. I guess Dak turned down, I want to say $33 million with like over 100 guaranteed. And I'm sure a lot of people are wondering, how could you possibly turn down that money? Or, you got to get more money. I think Patrick Mahomes is going to probably be a $40 million guy if he's not kind of a percentage of the salary cap type of guy, which I think would be a cool way to go about negotiating a contract. But for me, Dak is worth every penny he can get. Now, let me be really explicit what I mean by that. When you're in an NFL locker room and one of your teammates has the opportunity to get paid, you want them to get paid. You really do. I think it's one of those things where everybody thinks that they're going to be the dude. So they think that if somebody's getting paid a lot, it's going to raise the ship for everybody. The reality is obviously that's not always the case. And so how you determine how you spend your money as an organization, I think can tell you at least about like how you're going to have like the next half decade. And what I mean by that is it's a lot easier, or the model has been shown that there are ways to be successful with a really young quarterback on a rookie deal. And if you're going to pay a quarterback, then you're going to have to make sacrifices at other positions. And so if you're a Cowboy skill player and you're not Elliott, you're probably, not going to get the kind of money that you think you deserve. If you see Dak getting paid, turning down $100 million or turning down $30+ million a year. And so now, does everybody go out there and take Brady money? No. No one's going to shortchange themselves, or not very many people are. And I don't think you can expect most people to. But there really doesn't cause any sort of animosity, in my opinion, when people don't take the money or all of a sudden aren't kind of getting everything that they possibly can. What I mean by that is everybody respects the other person in the locker room to say, go get yours, because that window is tight. There really is. The chances are this is the most money Dak's ever going to make. Now, the way the track record's been, he'll probably be a great announcer too. But the reality is, this is going to be the most money he ever makes probably. So go get yours and help elevate the league and make it better. Now, flip side of that is, if I'm an NFL general manager and I look around the landscape of the league, is it better to pay your quarterback? Or can we ride with a rookie quarterback? Let's say, for instance, for example would be like Jalen Hurts. Can Jalen Hurts get us to the Super Bowl if we spend our money on everyone else except a quarterback? If we spend our money on a defense, if we spend our money on a front, if we spend our money on the perimeter, or do we want to spend our money playing quarterback? And I think that there are arguments for both. If you got Patrick Mahomes, you got to spend the money. But if you have Dak Prescott, could you roll with Jalen Hurts and spend your money everywhere else? I mean, maybe. I don't make those decisions, but I'd think pretty hard about it, trying to ride with a rookie quarterback. If you can get Lamar Jackson at the end of a first round, or Jalen Hurts, in a second, third round, spend your money somewhere else, I think it makes a lot of sense. So just food for thought when it comes to when you got turning down all this money. The Coach Dre, I appreciate it, man. Checking in. I saw you pop up on social media this week too. I appreciate the support, man. Good times. All good. Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate it. The other thing that I wanted to mention as I'm on this rant here about money, and especially about spending it on the quarterback, is this idea that, especially for fans, so I get it. I was a fan before I was a professional player. I'm still a fan of football. But for me, I never understood why people got upset that the players didn't take the money or they were holding out. How you associate, and I think it's an oversimplification when you see a lot of media people talk about, why are the fans siding with the billionaires, in the CBA talks and the collective bargaining talks? Why don't they understand that they can get with the millionaires versus the billionaires? And really, the millionaires aren't millionaires, the vast majority of them. Why do they resonate with the owners? Why do they think that the players should take the deal that they have offered? Why don't they understand that the players are more representative of the population? To me, it's because most fans, and y'all let me know if I'm wrong, most fans associate themselves with the team, where most players associate the owners as people. So it's hard to differentiate, kind of hey, if you're a fan of the Niners, you're a fan of the Niners. You don't care if it's the Yorks, the DeBartolos, as opposed to, if I know the Yorks or I know DeBartolo family, it's business. It's straight up business. It's just cash. It's a transaction. Where, no, I'm living in Philadelphia my entire life. My parents are from Philadelphia. I'm an Eagles fan, diehard. I don't care who the owner is, who the head coach is. I'm an Eagles fan. Well, that's a different relationship than the players, the coaches, and probably the owners, general manager, everyone else. It's a business to all of them. And so it's that fine line for a lot of fans. But for me, I never understood the kind of aligning yourself with the owners. And I get it that you're really not. I think that's why I'm saying the oversimplification. So every time I hear it's the millionaires versus the billionaires, fans, what do you pick? Why do you line up with the owners? They don't line up with the owners. The fans line up with organizations. That's why it still kills people in San Diego that the Chargers aren't here, because they hate the Spanoses, but they love the Chargers. And you can't differentiate yourself right? You can't pull it apart to that kind of granular level to be like, hey, I can, because I know the Spanoses. Like, hey, like, they're not for me. So I'm not a Charger fan. Like, I didn't grow up going to the Murph to watch Charger games. It doesn't impact my experience with football that the Chargers aren't here. I don't care. I wouldn't go regardless. But like, I get and empathize that it does to a lot of people. But I would challenge a lot of fans to at least understand a little bit of what the players go through. I know that many of you don't get paid to play football, but understand for them, it's strictly a transaction. Not strictly. It is a transaction when it comes to the dollar amount. And so this idea that, don't necessarily say, oh, I'm with the owners, da-da-da. Like, you're with the teams. I get that, and I respect that from a fan perspective. But if you're talking about a people perspective, you align with the players, whether you get it or not, unless you're, a 1% of the 1%ers. So hijack that for a while. There you go, Nick. That is a fire one. I haven't used the fire emoji yet, but I appreciate that. I'm glad it worked. I was afraid it was going to be just straight up fire. I haven't paid attention to the comments, so I apologize if someone has hijacked it like the last couple of weeks. I feel like we got hijacked the last couple of weeks. Michael Lyon. Michael, I appreciate the support for the channel. I'm going to answer this question. How do you teach change of velocity throws? That is an absolutely fantastic question. I do not have an answer because I haven't been able to teach it very well, because the handful of quarterbacks that we've had the last year, our quarterback didn't have a great change of velocity. We worked really hard on throwing screens to the running back, and I think it was just simply repetition. People who have watched the video where I try to talk about throwing a spiral, I lay on the ground behind me and throw it up, just up and down. And you really catch you throw it up and you pretend the ball is on a string going right up to almost touch the ceiling, back and forth. For me, that's the best way to teach kind of being able to pull the string on the ball or throw a changeup. Any sort of touch, it's all in the wrist and the flick and being able to control those type of things. And that just takes repetition. And I hijacked that from my college coach. He used to tell me to do it all the time. And when I finally bought in and did it, all of a sudden I could have a little touch. Now, I don't know if I had touch beforehand. I probably think I did. But for me, that's what I did. I used to lay on my back and just throw it straight up and down, try to touch it as much as possible, try to hit the ceiling just barely with the nose of the ball and have it come straight down. And I would do it for hours. And then I would do it when I was watching TV. Anytime there was a commercial, boom, jump on the ground, throw it up, 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 and then jump back and do it every commercial. And so that's what I try to tell our guys to do. Doesn't mean that they do it. I'll be able to tell if they do it or not. Last year, our guy got better at it. I don't think touch throws were necessarily his strength just because of his motion of how he threw. When he threw, he never really took the ball. When I talk a lot about horizontal L's and vertical L's when I'm talking about upper body mechanics, and I haven't talked a lot about mechanics on this channel just because it's nuanced and a rabbit hole I don't necessarily want to go down all the time. But when I do talk upper body mechanics, I talk L's. So horizontal L, meaning take the ball away from here. Oh, I almost spilled that. That would have been bad. So I'm here, horizontal L, and then from here, I'm vertical L'ing. So it's not a lift up. You don't lift the ball. You take it back where the top of the ball is pointing back, which I used to call an equal opposite. So horizontal L, vertical L. Well, our quarterback last year, he never got to a vertical L. His L was always kind of in tight. So it allows for a really quick release, but you can't pull the string or change velocity because it's like throwing a dart in a bar. You can't throw a changeup. When you throw a dart, everything is just quick, like literally throwing a dart. That's why the analogy works. So you have to be able to bring it back. Now, you don't want to bring it back like you're a pitcher because it'll take forever. You got to find that sweet spot, and that's why they talk about a vertical L. So horizontal L, vertical L, come across, be able to change a little bit. And so for me, it's just repetition, throwing that sweet spot between not being tired of an arm, but working it and getting comfortable, being able to change kind of speeds. So hope that makes sense. What else we got? Oh, you're welcome, Michael. I really do appreciate the support of the channel. I notice the people that are here and that enjoy the content, that give me quality kind of comments and thoughtful comments. So I appreciate y'all. Nick going after Tebow. I feel bad. I enjoy Tebow as a personality, as what he brought for the game. One of the best college football players of all time. But I got to watch my mouth a little bit because I got a 10-year-old son. And anytime we throw a ball that ends up, I shouldn't be telling you all this. Anytime we throw a ball that ends up low, like at someone's ankles, I'm just used to calling it a Tebow. I don't know if I made that up or if I took that from somebody. Let's just say I took it from somebody. So don't throw a Tebow means like don't throw it at someone's ankles. And so I just remember, and this is just like, this is probably too much information, but I remember when he was playing for the Broncos, and he won a playoff game, had that amazing like slant, bang post, whatever, I think, for that big touchdown. And I just remember talking to Adam Gase, which was his quarterback at the time, and he was just like, every week they were like scrambling to find any type of throw that he could feel confident making, because it just looked like, we played against him in the preseason, and it just looked like he was throwing like a shot put. Like, he's a massive dude. I mean, he is thick and he looks the part. But man, when it came off his hand, it was like literally, it looked like his receivers were catching medicine balls. Like, just like, boom. It'd be like spinning like a TV, and you'd just be like, and I just remember, I don't know. So now, anytime, whether it's any sport, like give me a basketball bounce pass and it's at my ankles, I'm like, come on, man, hit me, don't Tebow me on the here. Or like a baseball, anything like that. So I apologize, Tim. I'm sure he's not watching this. He's probably locked in, getting a good at bat right now. But that was just my little Tebowism. But man, the guy was an amazing college football player, and I couldn't sniff anything that he ever did athletically, or kind of, he's just a physical freak. Just couldn't spin it, man. It was just so long. And I felt, coming from someone who changed their motion so many times, I know how hard it is to change a throwing motion. I went from crazy quick to long to kind of what I think was a better perfect medium towards the middle of my career. So I know how hard it is to change your motion. I think that's why I feel like I can at least make fun of him a little bit. Roy, what you got for me? Let me see here. Are there any players that aren't in the half? I don't know what that means. Sorry. I watched the playoff game live. I cheered like a crazy person. I appreciate that, Nick. So did I. What college system fires you up, Coach Stanfield? You know what? I've been listening to, what's the podcast? I've been listening to a bunch of podcasts, but I've been listening to the Run the Power podcast, which is like I don't want to put it in a box if this isn't the right term, but I want to say it's for football coaches, high school football coaches, and they get way into the weeds with certain schemes, offensive line or line speak, for lack of a better word. And it's interesting to a certain regard for a guy who calls plays and is interested in a kind of offensive unit working at its absolute peak performance, but not necessarily the world I live in or the world I want to like talk about all the time. But they talk a lot about North Dakota State. And so I've been watching a lot of North Dakota State. Not a lot. When I say a lot, I mean more than one game, that hasn't shown up on the channel. Anything, if I watch more than one game and it doesn't show up on the channel, I'm doing it for my own enjoyment. And so I've watched more than one game of their all 22 stuff and have been interested in it. From a coaching standpoint, you can watch all this all 22 stuff that's now available everywhere and be like, oh, that would be great. I would love to do that. I would love to teach this. We could easily do that. Yeah, you could do that if you had dudes like that. Like, yeah, like I watch LSU and Oklahoma. Like, yeah, that would be great if we could do that. But we don't have any of the, those dudes are on another level. Those guys are all Sunday type guys. We've got a couple really good football players, and they might turn into really good football players. But right now, they're not Sunday type guys. And so, finding that blend about, what you can actually do and what are you watching it for your own enjoyment to learn? Not that I've learned as enough as I'm going to learn, but like I watch it because it's out of my normal kind of channel. You know, they're doing stuff in the run game that we're not necessarily doing. Last year we were mostly 10 personnel, but that was just because that was what we had, was 10 personnel. You know, I would love to be 21 personnel. I would love to be 22 personnel. I would love to, you know, put you in a phone booth and smash you, because I think it's one of the efficient ways to do it in high school. But we had a bunch of slot guys, and we had, you know, a bunch of wide receivers. And so that's what we did, and that's where we lived. I'm not necessarily a 10 personnel guy. I would love to be able to get in 20, 11 and play action and take shots, but we didn't have those people. And so I'm not going to bound us, you know, because I'm going to say, oh, we're going to run power out of 21 and it's going to be awesome. And like, you know, that's just like, to me, being a clown a little bit, where it's like, you got to have the capacity to adapt and be able to change and be whatever you can. But I think that there are little things, bits and pieces that I take from. But back to your original question, Brad, like, I'm enjoying watching the college film, because I came into this big library of stuff and I'm fired up to be able to see it, and it's super high quality. And all I've watched the last 15 years was all 22 from the league. And so it's fun to be able to see how different teams are running things that you don't necessarily see at the league level every single Sunday, but you do see in high school with the quarterback runs, how they get into different screen games, the RPO games, you know, different levels of the RPO. And so, you know, I just like watching people that do stuff that I'm not familiar with. And so we do some air raid stuff, but I'm not an air raid guy. You know, like, I understand the concepts of mesh and over and shallow and those type of things and four verts. But like, I don't teach it the same way that they necessarily teach it in the air raid. Not that that way is right or that our way is wrong. It's just the stuff that I run in high school is a blend, kind of just a amalgamated mix of everything that I've ever experienced. And really the sauce that we use is more how it's constructed and how we communicate, more than like, hey, this is the secret play that only the Patriots run that no one else knows, but I know because I was there. Like, nah, that ain't it. Like there's not that many secret plays. And so for me, it's more about being able to watch stuff that I can maybe pull or learn from just a little bit and be like, yeah, I think we could do that if we tried. Or like, man, if we had a fullback, we could really do that. Or a tight end who could handle a defensive end, we could really do that. But like, you know, right now those guys are unicorns in our program. And so we're trying to just maximize the best 11 players and how we can get creative with how they get the rock. So hopefully that made sense. Butch Davis, yeah, buddy. Appreciate it. Thanks for coming a member. Very cool. Hopefully you're not the real Butch Davis. That would be awkward, although we don't know each other. Nick, what you got? Can you comment on part of the CBA that covers pensions for the past players? That seems like a win for the NFLPA. I could see owners taking that off the table if they vote no. Really? So there are a number of different pensions. There's no easy way, and I'm probably going to do a disservice to how these things are talked about on the legal front. I'm not sure that many people really care, but in essence, there are a number of different pensions. The major pension that people most talk about is the fact that NFL players don't have lifetime health insurance, which isn't a pension, but kind of an added perk. But then the best pension is that at a certain age, you get a certain amount for every single season you were vested in the league. Okay, so technically I was vested for 9-ish years. So when I hit that mark, which the first time you can draw money is, I want to say 45, you get a certain dollar amount every single month for every year you were vested in the league. Now, if you wait to take that money till 55 or 65, the number obviously gets bigger and bigger. So the incentive is to, obviously most people have a real job, but not everyone. You know, if you're hurting for money, you got to do it. You got to do it. But if you wait, that money gets more and more compounds, and then you get more money when you turn 65. And at 65, you have to take the money. And so it's like any good pension. The other thing about the pensions, I think the 401k when I was in it was 2-to-1, which is pretty good. And most people maxed out their 401k just because you're making that kind of cash, you might as well. So that's another bonus thing. So most people walk away with pretty strong 401ks. But there are a handful of other kind of things depending on severance, how many years you get in the league. And there's really like 4 tiers of ways to go through it. But the main one is how many years in the league, and then when you determine to take that money. When you start pulling it, the later you wait, obviously the more it is. So hopefully that makes sense. Oh, Lucas Arnold, super sticker. Appreciate it. Love it. I don't even know what color that is, but I love it. Goldish. We'll go with goldish. What is it like being a backup QB in college? Do you get all the benefit of parties with relatively little anxiety to having perform on Sundays? Now, Lucas, hit me with a quick answer. Do you mean backup in the NFL or backup in college? You're welcome, Nick. So I might as well answer both. So backup in college. Oh, Maisha, appreciate it. I'm glad our boy survived today. Had me nervous. Who's my favorite coach? I hear you have some good wide receivers. Yes, yeah, I do. Yes, we have some very good wide receivers at our high school, so I'm pretty excited. I wish I could be the quarterback at our high school that I coach at, because it is a quarterback-friendly system. Every play is a pass play, and we got some dudes who can catch it on the perimeter. No doubt. Lucas, back to your super sticker, which I appreciate. What's it like being a backup in college? I will tell you, me being a backup in college, so I went to college for 5 years, and really 4.5. Didn't make my parents pay for 5 years. But I was a Division II non-scholarship guy. My first 2 years, I redshirted and then was a redshirt freshman. When I was a redshirt freshman, I went from the number 2 to the 4th string guy, so I didn't travel after this camp kind of like blue and gold game, or like end of camp scrimmage. I was the number 2 going into that. Then I went from 2 to 4. So I did not travel my first 2 years. I was the 4th string quarterback my second year. And then 3 years later, I got drafted. So I was not happy. I was not a happy dude my second year of college, not being the number 2 quarterback. Now, the guy who was playing was drafted in the 5th round, is now a coordinator, I want to say at Dartmouth, Kevin Daft. Good player. You know, like any competitor, I obviously thought I was better than he was, but he was probably better than me at that time. And so I was the 4th string guy my second year. Being a backup sucked. There were no parties for the 4th string quarterback in a Division II non-scholarship school. And so it was not enjoyable. All it did was piss me off and gave me kind of a added fuel to the fire that allowed me to kind of make a career out of this thing. Being a quarterback in the league is a little bit different, because, or backup in the league is a little bit different, because it's almost more of an occupation. And not, what I mean by that is obviously it's a job, but it's kind of, there's an element of learning how to do it, because you might not ever be a type of guy who's going to be a franchise type guy. Now, you might play yourself into a franchise opportunity, but once you get slotted as kind of a not everyday type of guy or a franchise type quarterback, you got to fight and claw for that backup opportunity. And you understand going into a season or signing with a team or an organization that you're not going to be the franchise quarterback. You're going to go in there and compete for the backup job. And then you're going to do everything you can to support the quarterback who's playing, and to support the organization, the team, and basically for a lack of a better way to describe it, it is, you are the best, one of the best paid assistant coaches. You really are, because you are coaching everybody on the offense. You're basically a psychologist to the starter. You're the conduit between the coaches and the starter, depending on what the relationship is like. If like the quarterback coach and the quarterback don't see eye to eye, or the quarterback, I've been around offensive coordinators that don't talk to the quarterback coach, that then have quarterbacks that have to go back and forth between them. And so every quarterback room is different. But the backup is often someone who's got some self-awareness, some relationship savviness to be able to play and help people understand and make an organization kind of go in the same direction. Whereas opposed to, if you're a backup in college, you're just pissed that you're not playing, or you should be. You know, and that, or at least that was my experience. And so when you're in the league, it's more of a role specific. This is what you signed up for. This is a job. You knew exactly what this was, as opposed to in college, you're going to college to play. Or I hope most people are, that you're not happy sitting on the bench, and that you need to play as quickly as possible. And so totally different experiences from my standpoint. I didn't love either of them, but I sure like getting paid to sit the bench more than I liked not traveling at a Division II non-scholarship school. Man, we almost got 150 and I'm cranking on an hour here. I'm about to run out of this beverage, and that's my timer when I know this thing has come to an end. Oh, really, Brad? That's amazing. I love UC Davis. Davis is one of my favorite spots. Met my wife at Davis. We got third son is named Davis. It's a special spot for us. So if y'all ever get a chance to make it up to NorCal, do me a favor and stop in at Davis. Support the team if you're on there on a fall on a Saturday. Hook and curl difference, Marcus Clegg. I don't know. What do you mean? Like the underneath locations and zone coverage? It's not that complicated. Nick, really? You don't know who's on this hat? Come on, Brown is back. It's that time. Everybody's feeling good about their baseball team. I know, I should go to spring training. All right, couple more here. Butch, thank you for joining up. Let me make sure I get to you here. How long did it take you to be able to properly break down film at the NFL level from the time you were drafted? I mean, it takes a while. It depends. I mean, it's a learned skill. It really is. Like when I remember watching film in college, it was, well, my coaches in college were all about situational football. So if they wanted to watch, second down versus this personnel, first down versus this personnel, red zone, where I got to the point where and that's how I started watching film when I was in the league, by situations. And that's how a lot of coaches watch film. For me, it's hard. I was always hard to do that. I was always a game watcher. And if you couldn't tell by this channel, like I put out a lot of stuff by the game. And what I mean by that is I think it provides the better context to how things play out. So if I just show you every third and medium over the course of 4 games, I think it just doesn't do justice to as far as understanding the context of a lot of those calls. And so for me, I always wanted to watch complete games. And so that's how I ended up being able to watch film. And then it's a learned thing for me. It was always watching film as a player is a little bit watching different than watching film as a coach. So watching film as a player, everything I wanted to learn or take in were things that I could then use while I was playing. It was never like, oh man, look at this number 44 stance. Looks like he's blitzing and is back on his heels. Like that type of stuff just never comes up in a game. You might see that. I don't know. I just never for me. For me, it was always about pattern recognition. Could I tell what the shell was? Was it closed or open? Was it man or zone? How fast could I tell? Was there someone who was going to be the indicator? Was there someone that I needed to know where they were at all times, like Ed Reed? Or was there someone that it didn't matter, I just needed to see the shell? Or I just needed to find out if it was, what the front was for our run game. Things like that, where once I figured out what I needed to play better, the film watching kind of took care of itself. My thing about it is many people, especially at the highest levels, will just say, hey, I watched 10 hours of film. And I'll be like, well, what'd you learn? Like, what takeaways did you have? What were you looking for? What were you analyzing? What were you examining? What were you like really pulling apart? Like, yeah, you watched every game that they played this year, but what helps you play better? And so that's what I'm always trying to do with our players. And when I sit down with players, is like, when we're watching this film, you got to get takeaways. Like, this is how we do it. You need to watch the footwork. You need to watch the pattern recognition from the back end, the secondary. If we're doing RPO stuff, like who's the defender that we're reading, all of those things need to be hyper specific. It can't just be like, yo, I'm going to go out there and check out, you can't be a fan. That's what I feel like some people are, like, I just wanted to watch, this corner. He's so good. Look at him locked down. Like, great. Well, then just don't throw to him. Like, I don't need to watch his technique. I'm going to throw it to the other side. And so for me, it was always about what could I take away from the film to make me a better player? whether that was how to process information faster, how to recognize patterns faster, because that's all it is when you're calling plays or playing quarterback. It is pattern recognition. So if you see something that you've never seen before, you're going to play slow. And that's why you see guys who have played longer say, oh, the game slows down. The game doesn't slow down. The game's the same speed. It slows down for you because you recognize things faster. So that's what I was always trying to get to, where I wanted to process information as quickly as I could from eye level. That's the other thing about it, because when you watch film, it's all bird's eye view, video game style, where you don't play from that level. You play from within the helmet. So I'm always trying to describe things from within the helmet, talk about how you see different concepts or different color from within the helmet. It's not all, perfect, like you're on the 50-yard line views. It's a lot of muddy guys in your face, condensed views, condensed throwing lanes, all those things come into point. And so it's about putting all those things together to take as much information as you possibly can, without being paralyzed by too much information, paralysis by analysis, be able to take takeaways that make you play faster when you're actually playing. So that's what I was always looking for when I was watching film. And it took a while. It was a learned skill. I kind of pick and pull from everybody that I ever played with, whether it was coaches or players, how they watched film, and kind of figure out what works for me. But really, at the end of the day, I had to figure out what worked for me. And that was what worked for me. It wasn't just about putting in a huge amount of volume or wasting my time watching film that I then couldn't take any, cogent information anywhere else. And so that was just my own personal take. We got some baseball talk going while I looked away. Butch, it wasn't, who used to make me the most nervous in the back end? I forgot his name when I was mentioning right there, but the dude's name was Bob Sanders. I want to say that was his name, right? If it wasn't his name, let me know. The DB for the Colts. That dude was literally a human missile. He was the fastest person I've ever seen on a football field. I remember playing against the Colts in the preseason, and they had all their dudes in there. The defensive line was crazy fast. Who was it? Freeney. The other guy on the other side, I can't think of. I can see his face, though. But Bob Sanders, he almost picked me off from playing the middle field player on a seam that I swear he was on the other side of the field. And he was, whether he was guessing or what, but that dude was a legitimate human missile. I had never played against someone so fast in my life. And so that's what I always think about when I think of dudes that were just crazy fast. Now, Ed Reed obviously was on a different level too, but Bob Sanders, for me, anecdotally, one of the best players I ever played against. Robert Mathis, there you go. Appreciate it. Yeah, it was Robert Mathis. Both those guys coming off the edge, but I was like, I don't care. I don't have to block those guys, but I do have to deal with Bob out there playing DB. So that was awesome. He was never healthy though, but he was healthy, I feel like, every time I had to play against him. So, all right. I appreciate y'all checking in. I'm checking out. It was a good time. Hopefully y'all enjoyed it, and make sure to check back this week. Got Joe Burrow dropping Wednesday, probably Jalen Hurts dropping Friday. Special treat for the Patreon on Friday too. So appreciate the support. Thanks so much for hanging out, and I'll see you next time.